So hello, and welcome to part 2 in my Sharp PC-7100 video series. In the previous video, we covered the specifications, operations under DOS, apps, and some games. This time we're going to be taking a look at Windows and trying a few apps, utilities, and games. So for this demonstration, I'm actually going to be running Windows off a GOTEK floppy. You might be wondering how I'm going to do that. Technically, Windows 2.03 was the last version of Windows that supported being installed to a floppy disk. But if you trim down Windows 3 enough, you can still make an installation fit on a single high-density floppy. Windows 3.0 was the last official version of Windows to support real mode, and was also the last version to officially support CGA resolution. So this makes it the perfect candidate for this Sharp 7100. While a majority of real mode apps were written for Windows 2X, there are still a few that are 3.0 exclusive. In May 1990, Windows 3.0 was released. Shortly after, in October of 1991, Windows 3.0A was released, which introduced multimedia extensions. 3.0A could still support real mode, but not for anything multimedia related. It served as a stopgap while 3.1 was being readied for launch in 1992. It was no surprise when 3.1 was released, real mode was officially killed off. Many apps were being developed for standard or enhanced modes of Windows, and real mode was far too limited. Microsoft rubber stamped this with the release of Visual Basic 1.0, which could run on Windows 3.0, but only in standard and enhanced modes. Anything compiled would also require those modes. Apparently, Microsoft managers and marketing teams really wanted Visual Basic to support real mode, but the developers won thanks to some colourful words of encouragement from Bill Gates. Clearly, he was no longer fond of real mode. And while I'm disappointed that VB for real mode was never actually implemented for my practical example, it makes sense. Mode was extremely limited, prone to halting and crashing. While it's valid to call out VB wasn't exactly rock solid, it would have been far worse if real mode was required. Today, if you want to make real mode applications, you still can. You just need to use something like Turbo Pascal for Windows 1, or something similar like Wacom's C++. I've got plans to make some content, it's on the back burner. There are a few TPW and C programmers who made Windows 3.0 real mode apps. Sometimes it was a lucky outcome, they didn't call any out-of-bounds instructions, and sometimes it was actually targeted. A while ago I started a little project called W30 RMCSL, or Windows 3.0 Real Mode Compatible Software List. I went through the Internet Archive trove searching for Windows 3.0 or earlier apps. I verified most of the software using virtual machines on 86box and made sure their CPU was set to 8088. Both CGA and, using a special hacky driver, VGA were used. You can see the link to the Vogons thread below. I found about 230 apps that would run in real mode with CGA, which is much more than I expected. It also took a lot of time to come up with that. So what setup are we using here to start Windows 3.0? Like I mentioned before, using a really slow 2.5 megabyte double-density image on the GOTEK, I've got the bare minimum Windows files, but also managed to add a few apps, utilities, and games. I can run Windows 3.0 from the Datafab, but it's excruciatingly slow, and on this portable with nibble mode, it's completely hopeless. Instead, what I plan to do with the Datafab is store larger apps on it, and only use it when I need to. So in this case, I select image number 16, change the directory to Windows, then we win. So during testing, I was only using MS-DOS Exec as the shell, but for the purposes of this demo, I was using the original program manager, which everyone knows from 3.0. As you can see here, it's a very shrunken down experience. Gone are most of the staples that you're used to seeing, but I've still gone with MS-DOS Exec, which doubles as a basic file manager. Got some clipboard utility, control panel, Multipad, which replaces Notepad, much smaller file size and also does multiple documents. Terminal and paintbrush. I've got Solitaire, checkers, Tetris, chess, and Minesweeper. Got a couple of utilities as well. I've got a 5-in-1, which doubles as a shell and some other utilities, and WinBench, which is a PC Mag benchmark running on 3.0. Now, before we get started, let's have a look at how much memory we've actually got. Real mode's notorious for memory leaks, so you'll probably see as this goes along, it'll just get worse and worse. Right now we're at 450K, which is pretty reasonable. If you think about it, I've got Windows loaded, but I've also got DOS loaded. I've got some TSRs, I've got a BIOS patch TSR loaded, and I've got a mouse TSR loaded. All in all, pretty impressed the fact we've got 450K free. I'll just load up control panel just to show you how a normal control panel looks on this unit. So we've got enough pieces there. Standard configuration for Windows, I guess. I have chopped a lot of this out. Mouse config, for example. You can also see with the dialog boxes and Windows in general, very thick and chunky. Now I know CGA is a chunky display, particularly in sort of vertical, but the problem here is, I guess, Windows wasn't really designed to run. Windows 3.0 wasn't really designed to run with this resolution. Everything just looks gigantic. But I will say with the Sharp, at least text is readable. If I go into Multipad, for example, which incidentally is also made by Microsoft, so it didn't really keep up. You could hear me typing well ahead of when the text appeared. That wasn't my video being out of sync. It's because the Sharp is somewhat slow to load. But once you actually get typing, it's fine. And you'll notice sometimes I'll make these numbers appear. It's because the number lock key is a little bit busted on this keyboard. It'll just keep sort of coming back on and off, whether I like it or not. We'll close out a Multipad for now. It's funny, using this off the GOTEK, it reminds me of running GEOS off the Commodore 64. For those of you who have ever had the pleasure of doing that, it's this sort of same, it's very similar system actually, very slow to operate whenever the disk's being used, but like when the machine's not accessing the disk, it's actually pretty good. It'll work. For those of you who don't know what MS-DOS Exec is, it still is in Windows 3.0. It actually was the shell for Windows 2. I like it because you can sort of operate it pretty quickly. Obviously, whenever I'm using the disk, it is going to be slow, but you can see the files I've got on here. You can load it pretty quick. You can copy and paste and move and delete and all sorts of stuff, just like a normal one. You got your end session up there. You can set the volume name, change directory, create directory. And I think even with it loaded, it doesn't take a heap of memory. Yeah, 431. You can see that disk space 384K. So that's yeah, that's definitely the issue here. Running it off floppy, it's not what this is designed for. But we'll exit out of it for now. Sometimes you can lose a mouse on this too. The screen doesn't update fast enough. Speaking of which, let's run a game. So Solitaire obviously comes with Windows 3.0. Ironically, it was written during the 2X days though by Wes Cherry, famously an intern at Microsoft who didn't make a cent off this other than what he was getting for his either day job or work experience. Microsoft originally had this in their plans all along as a way to introduce people to the mouse. Despite what we know today with Windows, you pretty much couldn't use it without a mouse, or you'd really struggle. Back in the day, you actually didn't really need to use the mouse for a lot of things. You could get by with keyboard shortcuts. The cards take a little while to load because it's accessing the disk. It is actually quite playable. You just have to remember what suits are which, what color, I guess. But it operates. I mean, is it perfect? Not really. And again, I'm about to show how poor I am at Solitaire, but you know, the bottom line is this is very playable both on the screen resolution and the way that it operates. There's Wes. Wes, if you happen to be watching, which I highly doubt, but thank you. Not only did you introduce us to the Microsoft mouse and showed us what drag and drop and those sorts of features are, you presented a really good little game that is still pretty much being used today. Now another game I loaded, this is off one of those 3.0 archives, is Checkers. Now it does support resizing. You can see what you're doing. The AI will operate. There's not a lot of screen updates. And again, I'm probably showing how poor I am at these games. I really do apologize, but at least you can get to see what they look like. Now I'll just go over to the help here. So it's a freeware checkers program by Gregory Thatcher back in 1990. And what I want to demonstrate here is just the scrolling. So again, while it's scrolling, you're going to struggle to read. So on my current PC, on my modern system, I can sort of scroll as I'm reading. Under this one, you really do have to sort of let it finish before you can figure out what you're actually reading. But thanks, Gregory. And next up is Tetris. Now this version looks like one that was supposed to be in the entertainment pack eventually. Could have been an early version. But it works on both this and Windows too. So I think a lot of those, well, not a lot, but quite a few of the Windows Entertainment Pack games in their early iterations did actually have some sort of Windows 2.0 mode. Or there you go, David Edson from Bogus Software. This one's very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it is very similar. We'll start at 0. Same keys as the DOS one. Doesn't show what's coming next though on this one. At least I don't think so. So I missed the... No, there's no option for it, so... And there's the sound, the little squeaky beep. I would think this one, given it can run in this resolution, would have preferred it to probably make better use of the screen. There's another version of Tetris called Klotz, which was actually made for 2.0 or 2X. That one makes better use of the screen. For some reason I couldn't get it running on this particular unit. Not sure why. But we've got Tetris. So again, if you want to pass the time, this is something that does play. So look, I'll leave it there. Now here's WineMine. So WineMine is a open source example, I guess. And you can see with this display, unfortunately, it only just makes it for this type of level. When you get to the bigger ones, okay, that was pretty good. When you get to the bigger ones, you won't be able to play it, but I just wanted to show that you could actually get it on there. Whoops. And this one I found on Toasty Tech website, which I'll put a link down the bottom. But Joshua Thielen made this. I hope I pronounced his surname correctly. Back in 2000. So, and there was a backport done as well, which is pretty cool. So Nathan Lineback did the backports to 1X and 2X. I think that's really cool that you can run this. And Toasty Tech's a really good little site. It's got a lot of information about the early versions of Windows. Having a game that can run on 1X that's made, this decade, pretty cool. Well, looks like it's just registered some movement. Well, it's freed up the memory. That's helpful. So 445K after mucking around for a little while. So look, let's exit this. I'm going to save the changes this time. With Windows 3.0, you could actually exit the session and have nothing saved, including desktop locations, icon positions, window positions, color changes, anything you've done in Control Panel. Under 3.1, it just did it automatically for some reason. Pretty sure people didn't care by that stage. But I have it unticked normally, so then it just gives you a little bit of disk activity free. And I think now we have a bit of a look at the Datafab. So the Datafab driver needs to be called from DOS. You can load it as a sys file in config sys, or you can actually just load it manually. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to load it manually. I've actually got it on the check-it disk. So when I flick back to that, you'll see check-it. You'll also see ePathD and ASCII HDRM. So ePathD is what we want. I'll load it without any parameters. This machine seems to have issues loading any sort of the default switches that enable interrupt 13 handling or flash disks. I get a lot of corruption and stability. Sometimes it'll just randomly fail. It takes quite a long time for this to load. I'll actually speed it up for this video. Alright, you can see here that it's detected the read mode as nibble, which is unfortunate. Write mode's in write fast, which is useful. It's found the shuttle ePathD at 3BC, which is the LPT1. There's no IRQ assigned, and the device is a Toshiba 64 meg compact flash card. The DOS won't see this normally, so you have to run the ASCII manager. There's our 64 meg disk. So that's what we need. Just checking what I actually had on the app folder. Now I'm going to change back to the floppy disk. We'll win again. This time we've got the Datafab loaded. So Windows is starting back up now. Still loading off the floppy this time. And we've lost about 50k with the Datafab driver. Makes sense. Now there's no browse, so I'm having to remember this off by heart. Hopefully I've got it right. Well, looks like I have. Datafab's now loading. I'll speed this load up because it's going to take a long time. And there it is, Microsoft Excel version 2.01, made in 1988. This was the last version that supported real mode. Now I'm not sure if I've got an example file on here or whether I'll create a spreadsheet from scratch. You can see this is the old Windows 2 style dialog box. We'll just grab some accounts addresses. These are not real, of course. Just want to see how much memory we've got now. I think we can do an about in here. Or, yeah, there we are. So we've got about 191k left. Not too bad. Now, sorry, I did knock the camera, so we are going to be a little bit different from before. Just want to see in here what it reports. Yeah, 191. That's about right. So now we've got Excel loaded. Let's see what else I can load before it starts to give me any errors. (1991) version 1.1a. I think there may have been one more version that ran under 3.0. This might have been the last one that ran on real mode though. Now, I think what I want to see at this point is how our memory usage is looking. So we're down to 55k free, so that's really where that's going. Let's go back to Excel. So we'll try copying that into clipboard. Just got a basically 8x4 grid. As you can see, it's very slowly drawing it. There it is. Let's see how much memory we've got free. So we've still got that 55k free even after copy and pasting that table. I think it's fair to say it's running, it works. You can copy and paste between the apps. Not a great experience. And I think for now, we'll put this little PC out of its misery with Word. Now after closing everything, let's have a look what we've got left, memory-wise. 378k, so there's a little bit of that leak that I was talking about. Doesn't quite give it all back. But we've done pretty well. So I think what we've seen here is we've pushed this little unit to the maximum. And while I'll say it's not really a great experience, it does work and appears to be pretty stable. No protected mode, no virtual memory, no worries. So if you're stuck with an old portable laptop XT with no hard disk, you do have some options. All you need is a bootable floppy disk and one of these nifty Datafab compact flash adapters. It's been a lot of fun exploring the Sharp PC-7100, even with its severe limitations. Not sure Sharp expected some 35 years later, some guy would be running Windows and DOS games on this little unit and sharing it to the YouTube, but here we are. I've got some more projects planned for it in the future, and we'll likely create a few more videos. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. Stay tuned for more content.